So the way I see it is there is a natural duality that exists within our universe here, within our physical reality, and you can see it with whenever you do anything in life and you start getting somewhere with it, there's always a natural pushback. And the more you go on despite that natural pushback, the more you learn, the more you grow, the better whatever it is you're working on gets. And it's a natural feedback. And the two things are codependent on each other. The two aspects of the polarity are dependent on one another, and that exists naturally, and you can see that anywhere. Male and female, night and day, up and down, left and right, all the different dichotomies that naturally exist. And, there's always a healthy competition between the two. Now, imagine a third party comes along, an unknown or unseen third player, a third hand, so to speak, in a game that has hacked the system and has played both hands for its purposes and for its aims and its intents, where no longer do you have the healthy competition between the polarity and the dichotomies and all the opposites, but they are pinned against each other in an unhealthy way, like I said, that only serves the third hand's agenda. And I think that's what we're going through right now. As I'd mentioned before, with a kind of an interdimensional body snatchers thing and all of that, I would say that is part of a third party fucking about with things. A third party playing both hands, playing both sides of the game to win the game for itself, so to speak. So taking all the pieces off the chessboard and no longer just playing one side against the other in a natural, normal, competitive manner, where it's no longer fun. It wouldn't be fun to play a game of chess with a third person controlling both you and your opponent, and neither of you end up winning, where sometimes it might appear that you're winning, and other times it might appear that your opponent's winning, but neither of you actually win, because the third party ends up taking all of your pieces, or taking your opponent's pieces, and ends up walking off the fucking board at the end. And I think that's where we are now. We're getting close to a third party kind of trying to come along, snatch up all the pieces, and steal the fucking board out from within underneath our feet. And everything I've talked about recently with the extra dimensionals, the actual ETs, not just UFOs and all of the fairy folklore phenomena, but something coming in from elsewhere. I don't know where. It's not necessarily from outer space, or not necessarily from some of the places that we've been told it comes from before, but I think there is an unknown, unseen third hand playing this game with us. And just like if you and your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, your person, you and them are going along, you and him are going along, and everything's going along great, and then a third person out of nowhere, seemingly, that's a friend, maybe a mutual friend, a mutual acquaintance, a coworker, someone you know online, starts playing both of you against each other and says to you, "Oh, did you hear what she said?" And says to her, "Oh, did you hear what she said?" Or going behind each other's backs and starting trouble between both parties, and getting both parties upset with each other, and getting both parties to make agreements with them that sabotages their relationship, and but all the while remaining totally hidden, and to the point where both partners wouldn't even think that there could possibly be a third person meddling within their affairs and shaping the anger shaping the anger, distrust, whatever, between both parties. But I think this happens more often than not. I mean, we all probably have stories about relationships where this has occurred, where a third person comes in and fucks things up. And then sometimes you might find that out because it might be blatantly obvious, where you can say, hey, look at what so-and-so just sent me, and they're like, oh yeah, he just sent me that too, motherfucker. He's playing us against each other. And it might be easier to see when it's humans doing that to each other, and it's some jealous motherfucker, some jealous borderline or something trying to break your relationship up. And that's a little bit easier to spot. But when this occurs on the quantum level, I think that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to see. And for me personally, I see this manifesting in all the weird stuff that we've been having going on in the last year politically, with all the BLM, Antifa, Proud Boys, like the far, if you want to call it the far left and the far right, quote unquote. This idea of pinning one side against the other. And I'm not saying the solution is everybody come together and hold hands and sing fucking Kumbaya or something. I'm saying there naturally always will be a healthy competition, just like there's a healthy competition in sports, or in a game, a friendly game of football or a friendly game of baseball, where you and your friends or you and your family are out playing. There's always a natural competitive nature. You're not going to throw the game just to be nice necessarily, but there's still going to be a healthy, friendly competition where both sides are playing each other with the intent of their side winning, but they're not playing with the intent of destroying the other side. And I think we're at that point now where there is a third party playing the naturally occurring dichotomies that exist between, male and female, for instance, and throwing things off between men and women, making women think that men are terrible, and that somehow men wanting sex is, 1, immature, 2, disgusting, and 3, should not even be considered. It kind of goes back to that whole idea of original sin coming back again. I made a post about this a few weeks ago on Facebook, just to kind of see, what would happen if I if I kicked the wasp nest down and see what comes out of it. And I got stung a few times, but it's all good. I don't care. But this occurs too, where I think the third hand is creating false dichotomies of the us and them, and bringing up old traumas and old grudges and old, putting fingers into old wounds that had been since slightly healed over, but then going in and sticking its fingers or sticking something sharp into old wounds that had started to heal over, and bringing them up and playing people against each other, saying that one side is terrible, and then going to that other side and saying that other side is terrible. And the go-between that's doing this all comes from behind these screens that you're watching this on right now. How much of what we do and how much of our decision-making processes are based off of what we pick up from these screens here that we're watching this video on right now. How much does the smartphone, the tablet, the laptop, the PC, the smart TV, these black screens, these black LCD screens that we look into in the digital realm with, how much does that inform our decision-making process throughout our life? And it seems like, as I've talked about before, the people who have a looser grip on their body, people who are easily, who it's easy for someone to come along and take the steering wheel of the car. How easy would it be to manipulate them through social engineering, through these devices that we're looking at right now? YouTube, Facebook, any of them, Netflix especially, all the big streaming platforms. There's a tremendous amount of social engineering on there that plays with identity politics and what I like to call professional victims, where you can get out there and play the heartstrings of people who have empathy, and I guess you could call it weaponized empathy, where everyone who is everyone who has half a soul, or whatever you want to say, anyone who has half a heart, they've got empathy. The majority of people on this planet, I would say, or the majority of living beings, have empathy to an extent. And weaponized empathy, you just have to tap into that and tug on just the right heartstring and just the right way, and put what I call professional victims on these cameras, in front of the cameras, and have them talk to people through their screens. And through that can very easily create good guy versus bad guy. And obviously the person on the screen wants to be on the side of the good guys, right? So they will go along with whatever social engineering is put in front of them through the professional victims and the people that have the camera pointed at the professional victim. Those are the real pieces in the game that are being played by hands, and then the unknown, unseen third hand that's playing those pieces, or playing the two hands even. So, we all might think of ourselves as pawns. It's like, no, I think we're the ones observing the pawns and, all the chess pieces, and making our decisions based off of the chess game that's in front of us on these screens here. And, there's the pawns all the way up through the queens and kings and everything in between. And we look at the hands playing, but we don't see this unseen third hand, the hidden third hand, which people will call the establishment, people will call the Illuminati, people will call whatever. There's all kinds of names for it, and everybody likes to think that, there's this dark other out there that's always, on the opposite side. Republicans will say it's Democrats, Democrats will say it's Republicans, and we could keep going with this analogy on and on. But my battery on this camera is about to die, so I'm going to end this off right here at about 11 or 12 minutes. And just, think about this. Really consider, is there a third party playing us right now? Are our heartstrings and emotions and visceral human reactions being manipulated to artificially create a war, to create two camps artificially to be played against each other? I don't think I'm the first person to have said this, but I just wanted to bring it in to attention right now and put this out there to you. All right, thanks for listening.